I'm Harmony Williams, and this is Life Changing Trips. Sometimes it's hard to see the freedom and the beauty that lives behind the weight of everything we carry. But I believe that life is so amazing, and I can't waste another moment. I'm so excited to be here with you for another transformational conversation about experiences and the latest research on plant medicine, meditation, breath work, and other unconventional modalities, and how they are being used for mental health and expansion. I hope by listening that you will find ways to integrate your peak experiences and epiphanies to open up new levels of possibilities, ingenuity, and fulfillment in business, and deeper, authentic connection and passion in your relationships, and a feeling of purpose, of living fully alive. All content is for informational, entertainment, educational, and harm reduction purposes only. Life-Changing Trips and Harmony Williams and their affiliates and guests are not doctors or mental health professionals or legal advisors. Any information shared is not meant to treat, diagnose, or claim cures for any physical conditions or mental illness. Psychedelics and sacred plant medicines are not for everyone, even when done legally. There are serious contraindications with various health conditions and pharmaceutical medications. Please do your own research and take action to be informed. Remember that you are 100% responsible for your actions and subsequent consequences. The views of the guests are not the views and opinions of Life-Changing Trips. Welcome, everyone. Today we are talking with Kody Remala, and he is the host of the podcast Mind Shift and a cognitive wellness coach. Welcome, Kody.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, yes. Well, why don't we just jump right in and have you give us just a little bit of your story, your background, and then we can get into some of the good stuff.
Absolutely. So this my whole journey, my whole health journey started about 4.5, almost 5 years ago now. And it started because I was very inflamed. I was very much just not showing up as my best self. I was obese at 340 pounds. I had rosacea. I had diabetes, leaky gut syndrome. And I really just was suffering, and I was sick of suffering. And so I started doing a few things. I mean, it really started with meditation. I saw this video online from Vishen Lakhiani about how he meditated daily for 3 years, and he just wanted to see how it would change his life. And in that 3 years, everything in his life changed. So I was like, okay, well, let's just start there and see what builds from that. And so I started meditating daily. I've still been doing it now for almost 5 years. And every single thing in my life has completely changed. You know, I lost 140 pounds. I reversed everything I was dealing with. And I really started upgrading how I was showing up. And it was usually like really with podcasts and books and different things. And so Mind Shift started as pretty much this love project of like really wanting to put this out to the world. Like there's some amazing tools. We can show up way better. And I just don't think enough of, the population is talking about this.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yes, similar things and similar passion. Like, I've felt this way and found some tools that worked for me. And then it's like, and there's all these other tools that are incredible. And then just wanting to share that with people and help change those lives. And I got to go back to meditation. I will have some meditation experts on here and we'll talk the whole time about meditation, but it is such a foundational thing. I made the decision to make that my word for November of 2019. I was like, okay. And I decided, and I meditated every day of 20, 30 to 60 minutes, and it changed my life. And I still, like you said, still do, but it's so foundational, and you don't realize before you start how transformational it can be and how it leads you where you're supposed to be, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's fascinating. And you don't really understand how active your brain is, how much that chatter is, until you start paying attention to it. It's the one thing that I actually also like to tell people when they start meditating is you're not supposed to be good at it at first. You sit down there and you're like, man, I have all these thoughts and I can't even stay present. And that's the point. You're first becoming aware of it and having to come back. And then it starts becoming less. You kind of like turn that volume dial down on all the chatter. And that's what's so beautiful about it, just staying present and calm. And it's just such a powerful tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, I get that a lot too when I talk about meditation and people just saying, I'm not good at it. It doesn't work for me. That's not me. Or you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, for all of us, it was hard when we started. And we, like you said, we weren't trained. Our brain wasn't doing that. But how do you tell people how transformational it is? How do you get that point across of how transformational it is?
So I actually like to encourage people to read books and anything that we can do to reinforce the habit is going to help us do the thing. And so one of my favorite books on really understanding essentially a way of life that's really a daily meditation practice in a sense is it's The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And it's, by the way, you're smiling. I have a feeling that you probably read that book. And it's just so amazing because it really helps us understand this chatter, help us really understand that we are not our thoughts. And it's just one of the most easy transformational tool we can use. And, I like you, I actually go for 30 to 60 minutes and throughout the day, it's actually longer because I do meditations in the afternoon as well.
Yeah, but, me too.
5 minutes, like just take 5 minutes in your morning and meditate. And increase it from there, but just taking that little bit of time, a little bit of breath work to calm yourself, to ground yourself, and to really drop your brain into these deeper brain states is one of the most powerful tools that we can do to show up better.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only mentally does it help us, but they have so many studies on physically how just shutting down, we're always in this stress response in our modern day, I shouldn't generalize. Many times we get stuck in the stress response. And so physically it helps us also. But I love that 5-minute tip because I would tell people that too, as a fitness health coach, just 5 minutes, commit to 5 minutes of working out. And you can do that. You're like, okay, I can do that. I can work out 5 minutes. I can sit and try to meditate. And it's a practice. Anyway, I can sit and try to meditate for 5 minutes. And then what you find is that you're like, oh, I love this state. This feels so good. I want to stay here longer. Right. And you build up that muscle, and same with exercising. You do it for 5 minutes and then you're kind of in the groove and it's feeling good. And I could go 5 more minutes, I could go a little longer, and you can keep going and then building that up. But such a good thing. And Michael Singer is incredible. I found Untethered Soul I'd already been on that journey. And so people are like, it's transformational. It's so amazing. It changed my life. And I was like, oh, I've heard all this stuff a lot already. But I see that's a really good starter book. Sometimes we don't see where we were at first. We just see where we are now. And Michael Singer, all of his books are good. Have you read his Surrender Experiment?
Yeah, the Standard Experiment, and then also Living Untethered, which is kind of the application for it. And yeah, all of his books are just incredible, transformational, really.
I love that Surrender Experiment. And Byron Katie has one. I love her books too. She has one, and it's similar to that, where they show not just like this is how you do it and what to do and why to do it, but it's like their life living it. Because sometimes you're just like, really, can I really be, what would you call it? I'm trying to think of the Zen word for surrender, to life. Can I really be not judgmental about the things that are happening, whether this is good or bad? Like that's impossible or whatever. And then you hear Michael Singer in Surrender Experiment living his life and how it plays out in his life when he really surrenders. And you hear Byron Katie, how she's got a guy holding a gun to her stomach. And she's like, oh, well, this is an interesting twist in the story. I wonder how this is going to end. And I feel so much love for this man that thinks that his only option is to put a gun, and how bad that would hurt him if he really pulled the trigger and all these. And I'm like, I don't think I would be, she's practiced, right? I don't know that I'd be thinking those thoughts and being such a witness of my life if I had someone holding a gun to me. So it's so fun to see people actually doing it, and that really is an option, how it looks to do it.
Yeah,
So,
that's absolutely amazing, and I love that you bring up Byron Katie because I'm a huge fan of her. I haven't read her book yet. I'm actually gonna have to look that up now.
oh man,
But I was
all of
introduced
them.
to her when I was going to a massage school. I'm a licensed massage therapist as well,
Okay.
and when I was in St. George going to the Zion Massage College, my teacher actually told us that exact story, and she's gone to a few events with Byron Katie. And then I actually have the app, The Work, which is Byron Katie, and it's such a powerful tool. And one thing I just wanted to mention real quick on something that you said, which I think was just so powerful, is that the physical response that meditation changes within us. And one thing that really helped me understand this, and I think can help others, is that the top companies in the US, Amazon and Google, have $1 million meditation rooms. They actually require their employees to take a break every 2 hours and take a 27-minute break to get their brain out of workspace and into this deeper meditative state. And what they found is when they come back, they're not just 50% more productive, 75% productive, 100% more productive. They're like 500 to 600% more productive of just this one little shift of every 2 hours, stepping out of this workspace, getting into this deeper brain space, coming back, and just being able to kind of have that reset on our brain. So it truly is just so powerful. The physical changes that we're seeing and even measuring as this like kind of little shift.
Yeah, that's why probably we both were like led to meditate in the afternoon and meditate throughout the day, not just in the morning. But I want to finish up with Byron Katie. I used her book, Loving What Is, over and over and over to shift this terrible relationship I had with one of my kids. And then I got to study with a gal who lived with Byron Katie for 7 years and was like incredible, and did some of her courses on how to facilitate that. So I got to learn how to facilitate. And it's one of my favorite things for getting me out of a mental, besides meditation, a mental spinning about a very bad circumstance in my life. So super awesome. Check out her books too. But I wanted to, oh man, I want to go so many places with you. But the meditation can link really well into, because that's how when I learned like these places that you're getting in your mind where you kind of feel this consciousness of the whole world and you see things from a different perspective and you have these ahas and intuitions coming in, led me when I was researching plant medicine. That's a similar state. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, and I was trying to kind of get there and open up with meditation, and plant medicine was just kind of a little way to show me what that would look like, so that I have a chance to do that on my own more when I know how it feels. I've been there before. I've seen the universe kind of thing. So we can go into, if you want to share any of your plant medicine things, or I really want to have you explain a little bit about your business and what your cognitive wellness coaching is also. So I'm going to let you pick what's drawing you here.
Yeah, let's talk about plant medicine real quick, because it's absolutely fascinating to me and has really helped remove some blockages in my life that I didn't even know were there. And that was what was so surprising to me, because I meditate all the time. I've done a lot of work on myself. I really wanted to explore these different things, but there was still this blockage that was happening within me. And it was very similar as, you were saying you researched it and getting more open to some of these different states. I did essentially the same thing, listening to these podcasts and really diving deep. I read a book called Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler, which really talks about all these different flow states and even plant medicine that can help you facilitate these things. And even one thing I was actually surprised about plant medicine is help you learn new skills faster. And I actually did an experiment on that. That was absolutely incredible.
I've heard that from many people. So I want to hear your experience with that.
Absolutely. So with plant medicine, so I'll tell my experiment, and then I'll kind of, if you want, share my story about the blockage and how I found it and how I was able to move past it.
Yeah.
But so this was with golf. So there was something with golf that I absolutely hated, and I had no idea what it was. It was just every time that I went on a golf course with my brothers or friends, I was just like, this is a stupid sport. Why does anybody play this? Like I hate golf. And no matter like how any tips anybody gave me or anything, I just could not figure it out. And this was just interesting to me. And so when I lived in St. George, I had some friends that were actually like, hey, let's go play golf. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess, And we went out there, and I actually had a friend that gave me one tip. He's like, just focus on this one thing, you'll do better. And I did. And I did a little bit better. I mean, I still was pretty terrible, but like I did a little bit better. And so I was like, okay, maybe I could learn this. And that was kind of like where the shift began. But what I started doing was I started microdosing. And this was actually LSD, but I ended up microdosing LSD and would focus on a skill every single week. So I did this every weekend for a whole year. And it was absolutely incredible. Every single week I was going out there, I was getting so much better, and things were clicking. I started understanding things. Oh, this is how you line up to the ball. This is how you hit it straight, all of this stuff. But really the most powerful shift was this one time when I went out there, and I actually took like a full dose this time. And we were out there, and when I was going around this corner in the golf cart, I looked out and I saw my 5-year-old self getting hit with a golf club. And this is something that happened to me when I was 5. I knew it. I've known about it the whole time. I just hadn't put 2 and 2 together that this is one of the blockages of why I felt this way whenever I was on a golf course. Wow. And what happened is our neighborhood friend was practicing his backswing. I was sitting on a stump like right behind him. He hit me in the mouth, knocked out all my top teeth. It went through my gums all the way up to my nose. And I ended up having 28 stitches in my mouth and lip, holding everything together. The doctor said if it would have gone any further, it would have killed me.
Whoa.
And, I just had no clue. And so I actually ended up doing this meditation and going back and forgiving him and really kind of transforming that energy around it. And the very next time I went out onto the golf course, I got my first eagle, which for people to know, if it's like a par 5, you got it in like 3 shots. And it was just such a amazing feeling to just have like these breakthroughs and really understand like, oh, this has like literally been blocking me and holding me back. And it was truly because of these medicines, of being able to have this different perspective, to be able to learn some of the skills and then see some of the stuff that was holding me back from being able to even enjoy being out there.
That's incredible. Oh my goodness. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah, I interviewed someone who was like, I learned to DJ in a day when I was on this, and how incredible it can be for opening up all those. I don't even know what it does, but they're doing lots of studies that show all the synapses and the different connections in your brain and the things that we don't normally use. So that's really fun that you did that experiment. Well, I want to hear about you're telling me your big plant medicine journey or the transformation.
Yeah. So this was actually as I was going to massage school, and there was this blockage in my my root chakra, and I had no idea what it was. I was really wanting to level up, but there was just something there that I couldn't literally feel, but I had no idea what was going on here.
At the time, were you into chakras, or did you know that, or were you just like, something's blocking me at the time?
So I knew about chakras. I've been, introduced. I've done a little bit of work around them, but this was about the time that I really started kind of focusing on them, because I just had, I grew up Christian in this environment. I was taught anything that was weird or Eastern or anything like that is, not of God and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so I didn't explore it when I was younger. And so as I'm, of course, going through meditation and all this stuff, I feel like you're kind of introduced to this anyway. And so I knew about it. I knew a little, like, I'd say like the tip of the iceberg, but I hadn't really experienced it yet in this way. And so we're going into this journey, and this was psilocybin, and I start talking about like, I have this blockage that I'm feeling in my root chakra. And I feel like this is like what's preventing me from leveling up. And the people I was with, the gentleman was talking about his experience as a child and how, military dad, very strict, and how he kind of became the peacemaker in the home. And as a result of this, became a people pleaser and all of stuff. And he's like, and if this doesn't resonate with you, just tell me to shut up at any time. And I'm like, no, keep talking. I feel like you're telling my story right now, And so what actually I found out was I was shown pretty much my entire childhood, or at least some of the most impactful moments in my childhood, that I had buried my own masculinity in this process. In my little childlike mind, I was like, if that's how being a man is, if that's, masculine energy, I don't want any of that. Like, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to treat people terribly. And so there was just this part of myself that I wasn't okay with. I hadn't even known that I had blocked it. And so as a result, I was definitely a people pleaser. I had, troubles making decisions, all kinds of things just as a simple result of this. And so we went in there. We actually, they're like, okay, are you ready to do the work? And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And they're like, okay, we're going to have you stand in front of a mirror. You're going to stomp and you're going to roar. And I want you to like get into that deep masculine part of yourself and just roar. And that was the hardest thing for me. Like probably took me about a half hour to even be able to actually do it. Like when I very first tried, it was what I consider a little sad. Like, how is something that we know to do as kids that we can totally do so incredibly hard for me, like physically hard for me? And then when I was finally able to do it, I felt this rush of energy, like just kind of like start soaring up through me and through all my chakras. And I started, becoming super hot. And it was an energy surge that I'd never felt in my life when this chakra started becoming open. And really understanding how to integrate positive, this amazing part of myself, this amazing masculine part of myself back within myself in a healthy way. And that was absolutely one of the biggest shifts in my life, to be able to fully step into my power, to fully step into who I am and remove some of these blockages of, can I do that? That imposter syndrome of like always questioning like, are people even going to get value of what I say? Are people, all of that kind of stuff. It completely shifted that for me to fully kind of step into who I am, which was so incredibly powerful.
Yeah. So what does that masculinity look like now for you? Or what does that feel like?
So for me, it's, I used to have this huge thing with procrastination. And so procrastination for me was, I would feel stuck. I would feel unsure about any decision I was making, and it would literally block me from even taking the first step. And I would get over it, but it took me so much more energy to kind of have that knowing, have that faith that what I'm doing, what I'm building is the right direction. And what it really shifted from me is being able to step up, make that decision, and have that knowing, that faith going forward of like, what you're doing is valuable. What you're doing is something that people need, and really not just not staying stuck, and just stepping forward, knowing that I don't know the path, and that's okay. You're not supposed to. Like, if you did, you probably, wouldn't want to do it anyway. It's really kind of just taking that next step, knowing that everything's going to form around you as you do.
Yes, I so resonate with that. I love it. And so I was wanting to, I didn't hear about, I think maybe I had heard of toxic masculinity, but different words for it, or divine masculinity, but just standing in your truth and your power without bowling people over, or, stepping on people to get to where, but like you said, just that next step, you're confident in it, and you're taking that next step, the next step, and going forward. And I don't feel you as that kind of pushy, toxic masculine type person. But as far as a business, how do you balance that like gotta go, gotta do, gotta sell, all those different things, push, scale my business, all those type of masculine, what I would think of as kind of a masculine energy with that just inner power and maybe the feminine part of it where I want to help people. I love people, and I'm going to help them with their wellness, with their body, with whatever, help them feel better. I'm rambling now.
No, that's awesome. And it's so important because in my opinion, we have to marry the two within ourselves. We have to marry the feminine and the masculine within ourselves because they're both there for a purpose. For me, because I only felt safe around my mom. I was only safe in the presence of the feminine. And so this has been at the forefront of my life, my entire life. I've always been kind. I've always been compassionate. I've always been understanding. And it's one of my superpowers. It's completely who I am.
Yeah. You don't want to take that away by bringing in the masculine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most important pieces here is like, we don't want to go to the other extreme of just like, I'm man, I'm in charge, It's not really the point. The point is it can move you towards your goals and really help you have that assurance going forward and really help accelerate everything we're doing. And that's really what it means to me as far as merging the masculine is being able to make that decision and understand that, what I'm building does have value and then go forward. But at the forefront of my practice is definitely like, I want to be present. I want to be compassionate. I want to be understanding, like what's going on with you. Like everything else doesn't matter. Like right now it's just you, and really helping find different tools to help people move forward with that compassion and understanding at the forefront. Because I feel like, the feminine is really, really great and amazing at connecting with people and understanding and listening and being present. And the masculine is really good at what you just alluded to, taking steps forward, building your business, scaling, being able to kind of go in that forward direction. But we definitely have to know when it's appropriate to be in the masculine or to be more in the feminine and be comfortable with it. And that's kind of really how it's merged together. And for me, honestly, being in my feminine is so much more easier than being in my masculine. So like, I still have to work more at being in my masculine because it's just something that I completely buried for so long that that's actually more of a process for me than showing up in my feminine energy.
Yeah, I feel similar. Or when I go to the masculine, I take it to too far of an extreme. And then you're not resonating with people, right? So how do you help other people? Is that part of your business, helping people tap into that and balance that so that they can move forward in their business? If that was the key for you.
So it is. It's one of the tools in my tool bag that I can pull from depending on what's needed. For my cognitive wellness, my approach is, and this started with reading a book called Change Your Brain, Change Your Life by Dr. Amen.
So and
good. Yeah, absolutely a game changer for really how we show up. And I actually help them measure their gut bacteria and their DNA. If we understand what's going on in our gut, what's like really hurting us, what's really actually beneficial to us, and then really how our diet should be designed around how we were designed, how our ancestors ate, all of this stuff that adapted to make us us, then we can really increase the way our brain is showing up. We can increase everything we're doing. And there's mindset that I put in there because mindset is our biggest asset. It can be, or it can, be our biggest detriment depending on what our mindset is. And really helping people understand how it's a neural net. Like you become who you surround yourself with. You become what you surround yourself with. So what are you doing when you wake up in the morning? What are you doing before you go to bed? do your friends actually help empower you and support you and they're challenging you? Or do you look around and you're like, I don't want to be like you guys.
Yeah.
And this is a huge sign for us. Like, we really need to surround ourselves with people that are either already where we want to be or working on getting there. And when we do this, it completely supercharges everything we're doing. So it's a combination of diet, mindset, of reading. I actually have a monthly or a weekly book club where we read a book a month and meet every week to talk about everything we're learning. And so people that come into the coaching practice with me, I'm having come and do that, because reading and reinforcing everything and being surrounded by a group of individuals that are doing the same thing really, really helps us. So it's really just like these different insights of how to help us show up better. I don't know if you're familiar with heart math.
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so heart math, and then the inner balance, which is it's a device that measures your heart rhythm, and it gives you kind of a snapshot of where your brain is. So when we're going throughout the day, most of the time we're in beta brain space or fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And if we can understand that when we're in this, every single resource possible gets diverted from our digestion, from our brain, from anywhere possible to run or fight off the danger. This is like an evolutionary design to help us survive. And so what happens when we're doing this throughout the entire day? Well, you're not running from a tiger anymore. You're not fighting off this danger. Now it's your boss, your spouse, traffic, even blue light will also put us in beta brain space. So we're constantly being inflamed. And next thing you know, we have disease pop up and we're like, well, why is this happening? And you're like, well, we're not getting into the deeper brain states. So where our heart math ties into this is you actually will put it like on your finger, your ear. It measures your heart rhythm. And there's it's kind of this like rainbow circle that expands and then gets less. And you're supposed to breathe with it. And what it does is in real time, you're able to see your heart rhythm change. And as you see your heart rhythm change, you see your brain state drop into these deeper brain states. And it's measuring heart rate variability, which is essentially our measurement for resilience and really how we can handle stress. And so it's another one of the tools that's just in my toolbox that can help people of just saying, let's do this. Let's start measuring this. Let's see how high we can get that HRV, that heart rate variability, and really start to be more present and have every single opportunity when you're noticing yourself being stressed or anxious or whatever it is, to have a device to help you in real time see yourself coming out of that and see how you feel. And it's just a beautiful way to help.
Yeah. I was just talking about that with my husband the other night. We watched that first episode of Limitless by, what's his name? Thor.
Hemsworth.
Yes. Thank you. And the first episode is on stress. And so they're putting him in stress states and they have all the stuff on him so they can measure his heart rate and they can measure all these things. And he can see by even what he's telling himself in his brain and how he's breathing, how he changes that. And I have used that device you're telling about where you put it on your ear, and it just makes it less woo and more scientific, because you're seeing how, and the things they talked about on the episode were so simple, the things you hear all the time, the way you're talking to yourself in your mind and the chatter and the meditation and the breathing. I mean, it was so simple and we just overlook it because it's so simple. But I think when you see that device and you realize what you're doing, understand what you're doing in your body, and then you can see that you actually have control over that by the way you're breathing or what you're thinking. And it was funny to see that for me. I'm like, oh, I kind of got off on that little train of thought that was negative, and this is what happened, and then I bring myself back and breathe or think positive things or gratitude and see what it did or experiment with it. So that's super fun. I love it. Tell me more.
So all of this, in my opinion, so I love that you said the scientific side of it, because for me, coming out of religion and really trying to understand life, I became atheist for a while. And for me, I had to have evidence for anything to be proof. Now I would say I'm more along the agnostic. Like I don't really know what's out there. I do believe there's a higher energy guiding us, but I needed that proof. Like if you can't measure it, then how do we know this is working? Mm-hmm. And so all of my stuff is not designed from just like, oh, look at my story, I'm so awesome. It's no, let's measure what's happening specifically with you, and let's measure the results. Let's, if you want to improve your testosterone, well, how do you know that testosterone supplement you're taking, is even the right amount or is actually doing anything? Because there's a huge difference between taking a supplement and thinking it's doing something, and taking a supplement and realizing, oh, it's not bioavailable for my system. Why is this? And really kind of tweaking the things that are actually going to help you specifically, because every single person is different. Every single person has different DNA, different gut bacteria, different habits. What stresses me out, it's not going to stress you out. So let's figure out some tools to help you in real time while you're experiencing whatever it is specifically to you. So it's a combination of being able to measure, sleep, in my opinion, is the most amazing upgrade we can do for ourselves. If we can actually figure out how to measure our sleep and how to get better deep sleep and REM sleep, which is all a part of this. And we can do this through free, apps on our phone now, or you can get the Aura Ring and actually have some really deep, insightful data. And there's simple little things like for my sleep practice, one of the most powerful and free thing to get better sleep was to take a 10 to 30 minute walk in the morning, like as soon as the sun rises, or, sometime before 10 a.m. and get the sunshine in your eyes. This came from Andrew Huberman from Huberman Labs.
Love him.
And he talks about how if you just do this, it sets your internal clock, it sets your circadian rhythm. And so just by being able to go and take this little walk, get the sunshine in your eyes, get some fresh air, start moving right away, you actually set a clock inside yourself to go to sleep at night. And if you do other things, like I have these blue light blocking glasses, and they're actually, they have red lenses and they completely block out all of the light and tell my body to start releasing melatonin. And I do that about an hour before I go to bed. And every single time I do that, I'm like so sleepy and I sleep so incredibly. And I see the numbers on my tracker app go up on deep and REM sleep. And as a result, I recover so much better. When we recover better, we feel better. When we don't get enough sleep, when we don't do, some healthy practices, or we, eat some stuff that it's making our body not really, feel too good. And then we toss and turn to the night. I don't know about you, but for me, now that I don't drink and I don't do any of these other things, and I can really feel what's going on in my body, I feel hungover the next day. Like my body is so lethargic and so sore. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do my cold shower. I don't want to do my meditation. And then I do anyway, and I still feel better. But it's so much harder to show up simply because we're not doing some of these healthy practices that's going to help us recover and help us show up better. So really the whole cognitive wellness is a combination of diet, exercise, sleep, and measuring everything we're doing, surrounding yourself with a community that's going to support you and really encourage you and help you really level up to that next level using tracking and scientifically backed data.
That is awesome. I love that. I think we underestimate some of these simple things and the power of just having someone being accountable and walking you through that, and that community, all the things you're saying. I love it. Yes. I want to be like on my first plant medicine journey. Someone would say something and I'd be like, I know, and it's just these simple things like, oh, life is such a gift, or love really is all that matters, or dumb things that you hear. And I was just like, I know, because I felt it so deeply, but everything you're saying, I was like, yes, I know exactly. So you have a certain, do you coach business people or just anyone as wellness?
So I do coach some business people. I'm actually expanding more into that. I have a entrepreneur course that I'm working on right now that that'll be really fun to release, and I have a really nice team around me that's helping me with that. So I do. It depends on what it is. So the entrepreneur course, of course, is going to be more for the actual business side of things, which is still going to involve mindset and everything else I'm doing, but kind of more of, the business plan, the networking, that kind of stuff. But most of what I do is individuals that are either having health issues or brain fog, or just need that little extra help, and they don't really know where to turn, or there's just so much noise out there of like, I should do this diet, I should do that diet, and what's actually healthy for me. And the truth is, you don't know. If you're not measuring, you don't know what's healthy for you, to your system specifically, then, what works for one individual may not work for you, or everything that they're saying. Like one thing that I was surprised about is kale. Kale is horrible for me. and it's really not that great for, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Is that from the DNA tests? You learned that?
Yeah, from Biome, from testing my gut bacteria. But there's so many lectins in kale that if you don't cook it at least a little bit, then it's pretty toxic for you. And it's pushed as this like superfood, health food, and you need to have this. And it doesn't mean that there's no nutrients in it. It's just that it's also causing a lot of inflammation as a result of what's going on, especially if you don't prepare it properly. But for my system, it makes me inflamed. It helps my rosacea show back up. Like I don't have to deal with it. If you would have seen me 5 years ago, you would have been like, is your face okay? Like it looked like I was sunburned constantly on my face. And it was, maybe after this, I'll show you, or I'll send you a picture before and after, so you can really see the difference. But also that's one thing that I help people to learn as well, is that your body is biofeedback. So if you're feeling gassy, if you're feeling bloated, if you're feeling achy, well, likely something you're doing is causing that, because you're not meant to feel that way. So let's measure, let's test, let's figure this out. So it's just really the people that want to take whatever they're doing as far as their everyday life. Like, I want to show up to my meetings, and I want to be present, I want to be more impactful. Well, we can work on that, but let's work on like, what does your personal life look like then? Like if you feel like you're so stressed out, or you're so, have this brain fog or whatever's going on, like let's look at every single thing affecting you. Let's figure that out. And then we can level up the way you can be more impactful within whatever you're doing.
Awesome. So good. As far as the entrepreneurship thing goes, that's something I'm super passionate about, just holding that space for my kids to be able to do something they love, but also support themselves. So they're not just trudging away at a job they hate and killing themselves doing that, or killing their spirit doing that, and then trying to eke out some time that they can do something they love. But super passionate about helping people put their passion out into the world and actually getting compensated for that. And one of the things that I found as we were both talking about different programs we've been in and are in before the podcast, but one of the things that I found so effective, and I want to make sure I'm putting into all of my clients and programs, is not only that the layout, like you were talking about, of the business and the entrepreneurship. And I have a feeling you just automatically do this anyway, but is when my mentor is bringing in that other side of the scale that we've been talking about, maybe called woo or whatever, but just bringing in that heart part of it, where they're getting you in your power, and they're helping you tune in to what that next step is. Or, a lot of times I just get super overwhelmed by all the, maybe you'd call it the masculine stuff, or like the computer stuff that I'm not good at. And I'm like, I spent 7 hours working on my website and I didn't even get the thing transferred over. I did nothing. And I get so frustrated, or like, what do I do? Which platform do I use for this product? Or I get all stuck in there, and my mentor to just bring me back and be like, it doesn't matter. Like what you need to do is get on fire and go do more interviews because that lights you up, and talk to people and tell your passion and tell your story. And then when you're all lit up and you're aligned and you know why you're doing this and you know you're helping people, you're out there helping people, all the rest of that falls into place. It's okay. Like this is the first step, and it doesn't matter which platform you choose. Just pick one. Like it's not a big deal, but kind of bringing in both sides of the thing, not just the business. Anyway, I'm sure you do some, but if you have thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely have some thoughts on this, and it's so important. So, one of the guys that I listen to, he's one of my superheroes, Peter Diamandis, and he does some incredible work. And he talks about your massively transformative purpose. And he's a coach to entrepreneurs. A book that his coach actually wrote that I would highly suggest to any entrepreneur. It's called Who Not How, and it's absolutely incredible. And it really talks about this. Like the more you're able to focus on what you're passionate about, the more impactful you're going to be. So I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, I know I fell into this trap of like, so how do I make money with what I'm doing now? And, we need to make money. That's part of it. Certainly you have to figure that out. But if you're not passionate about it, if you're just doing it for the money, then you're going to burn out. You're going to not want to do it. Motivation only goes so far, then it takes grit. And that grit, if you're not passionate about it, if it's not fulfilling your purpose, is 10 times harder.
Yes.
If you don't get energy from it, if you're not excited about it. Like for me, I love helping people. I love coaching people. I love seeing those breakthroughs. I love podcasting and having amazing interviews with people and being able to learn. Like that's what I'm good at. I'm really wonderful at networking and meeting all these people. Like, oh, you need this? I know somebody. Let me, reach out to this guy. That's what I love. And honestly, as you're saying, like the platform stuff and the website stuff and how to figure that out, I'm in that same boat. Like that's totally me. I'm like, I feel like I just worked for 3 hours and this still sucks. What is going on, and it's hard. And, part of that is that grit that we have to work through until we can find or maybe afford that who.
Yeah. Well, and I found when I was like, this just isn't working. This isn't aligning. And then I'd go and I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to go do what I'm good at. And then I would come back, or I'd go out and, like you said, connecting with people and helping people. And then somebody's like, oh yeah, have you heard of this app or this website? It just does it all for you. And it's normally like all these different things are $1,000 and it's $100 to do. And it does all these 7 different things and it makes it so easy and streamlined. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was an option. I was trying to like code it myself, and I didn't understand. And then it just different things, like a podcast editor just fell in my lap that was amazing and affordable. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've been struggling through these different things. And sometimes when it's just like you're looking for something you can't find and you never find it, right? When we're just butting our heads up against it. If I just leave it for a second, get back into my passion, get back into my why, and then it falls into place so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such an important shift for us is to align with your passion, align with your purpose. And sometimes you're going to do things that are hard, sometimes challenging, and you will, kind of like the surrender experiment, the right people will come when they're meant to. But if we're not in that purpose or that passion, then there's just something that we feel not fulfilled, right? We don't feel like we're living up to our full potential. One thing that I love about Peter Diamandis is he talks about living bigger than yourself. What is your moonshot? And, they're doing things. He started the X Prize Foundation, which is essentially a Nobel Prize for entrepreneurs solving the world's biggest problems. So like right now it's called the Carbon Capture Project, which is literally sucking carbon out of our own atmosphere to reverse the greenhouse effect. Wow. And making like construction products or whatever out of this carbon. And it's something that sounds totally science fiction. Like what? How is that even possible? But that's the point, is doing something so like crazy. One thing that he also says is the world's biggest problems are the biggest business opportunities. And when we really understand the power of this, of just like, how, like one of my things, you probably see the NASA hat hanging right behind me. It's, I want to walk on the moon. And as a kid, this was my ultimate goal. And as I got older, I actually kind of forgot that for a little while. I'm like, I don't want to go to MIT. That doesn't sound like that great of an experience to me. And then there's the commercialization of space and all kinds of different things going on there. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I can go to space in my lifetime. Like, this is absolutely amazing. I'm going to go to space. So like on my wall, I have an astronaut hanging above me, and I'm surrounded literally by space stuff all the time, because it's a reminder of like, this is where I'm going. I believe I can do this. And I believe I can inspire others to do something bigger than themselves.
Yes, I love that. And like you said, it makes that grit and that the hard things 10 times easier when you have the why behind it and you're passionate about it. It's really hard to grit through something when you don't even believe in it, and it doesn't light you up. But you can do those harder things. And I'm terrified of space. So I don't know that I'll be there with you, but we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind, or, something will shift. Oh, okay. Well, I am having a great time, but I was going to see if you have anything else that feels like it needs to be shared. Is there anything coming up? And then I had one last question.
One thing that I just wanted to say on aligning with your passion and purpose that we were just talking about, that really, I'm a data guy, and if I can see the results of something, then it really kind of helps me understand why to do it. And so, just for all your listeners out there, one thing that really drove this home for me is going back to that book, Stealing Fire. So Google and, well, I believe Amazon as well, but Google decided to do a radically different thing for their employees to help them be more human, to see like the human aspect of them. And they said, okay, we want you guys to take 20% of your time of while you're here, while you're paid, while you're on the clock, 20% of your time, and work on something that you're passionate about. And not knowing if it would pay off. I mean, there are studies on it, so I'm sure they kind of did know it would pay off, but not really knowing like where it would go. They're like, we're going to start paying our employees 20% to do something that has nothing to do with what we want them to do. And what actually ended up happening as a result of this is it paid tenfold for what it is. What they found out is it paid off tenfold. What happened was the, Google Earth, Google Maps, these things that we use all the time were born out of this passion project. So not only did it pay off tenfold, because now Google's making a ton of money off of these apps that people designed for Google, they were also investing in their employees because they cared about them. And as a result, everybody elevated. So it really just kind of, for me, showed the power of working on something that you're passionate about, that gives you purpose, that gives you energy, that gives you drive, because that will get you to that next level if you can figure out what that is.
Right? Think how much more, just those examples you gave, how much more we would have if everybody was a little more aligned in what they're doing, instead of like, well, I guess I need to do this because it pays well and I can support my family on it. But they actually had that passion and they're working on these cool projects. That's incredible. And I know, I don't know, there's not a perfect system out there. And I'm glad we have people doing some of the boring things that they do that we need done. And what if we did that for schools, or even just in our families? And like I used to just be so like, if my kids weren't being productive every second of the day, and we have to limit this, the electronics time and whatever, and my sons now, they play their musical instruments hours. I mean, at least 2 hours, but more like 7 hours a day, they're just into it and they get into it. And one of my sons, he plays video games like many teenagers, right? And I was like, oh, is that just like fun for you? Like, is that kind of your detox time or whatever? And he was like, no, I actually spend a certain amount of time every single day, disciplined practice time doing this. And I'm like, really? So weird. You're disciplined about this. And he, of course, enjoys some of it too. But there was one game he was practicing and pushing for a goal. And And I'm proud to say that I am the mother of the #1 in the world Cuphead speedrunner. And I think that's actually kind of cool. He's
That
like,
is, it's awesome.
I thought you'd not really like that, Mom. But I was like, no, he holds the world record for it. That's actually kind of cool. But he has the ability to do some things that he enjoys and work hard at some things and test out this whole thing. But what if we did that in schools and they actually got to work on stuff that they enjoyed? They actually got to get outside and ground and do, these different things. It could be a different life.
Absolutely. What I love that you actually just said this, simply because so one of the prizes right now for X Prize is actually on education, because our education sucks right now. It's based off of the Industrial Revolution, and really for these farmers, and really for everything that was going on that made, America what it is. But it's an outdated system that hasn't been updated for over 100 years. Like, why are we still doing this when there's much better systems? So I know there's different people working on even like VR type education games where, Tony Robbins, which is a guy that I very much look up to, and I think he's an amazing coach. They digitized him. So all of his training, all of his programs, all of his info, he can actually teach virtually now. And there's different ways. I don't know if it's actually out yet. I'll have to look into that part. But this is the future of where we're going. So imagine if we had the best teachers on whatever it is, whether it's music, whether it's impact, whether it's math, it doesn't matter. And it can be curated to you, to how you learn, to, if it's music, you can actually incorporate math and music and help people understand even more as a result of this. And there's different things where you can kind of track the eyes and see what's actually keeping attention and what's not. And if we can curate this way of learning, then we're going to become much, much better at every single thing in life. We're going to be able to have some of these mindfulness techniques, some of these techniques to calm when we need to calm, be able to challenge ourselves to grow. We're going to be able to really have something curated specifically to us and help drive that passion within us, where I think, school kind of drives it out of us. One of my favorite astrophysicists, Michio Kaku, he talks about how a scientist is born every single day and they die when they enter into the school system. And I thought that was amazing, especially since he's an astrophysicist that teaches at NYU. He's like, how they die is, we have these questions of like, how does a flower grow? Why does it have color? How does it absorb sunlight? That's science. And that every single one of us has this. But when we're forced to go to school and identify every single little scientific name of the flower, then we're like, I don't care about this. Like, why am I doing
memorize it?
Exactly. And it's not science. So
I love that. I homeschooled my teenagers for 8 years, and my now 9-year-old, he's at a Montessori, and they have some good things and are building more, and they get to meditate every day after school or after lunch. And they're bringing in some things, but it's still it's a charter. So it's still pretty government run and funded. But he was a little 2, 3, 4-year-old while I'm homeschooling these other ones. And he was just so excited. He'd bring me this notebook and he'd be like, I want to do my math, Mom. And he's like 2, and then before he was even 3, and his brain, he just came ready to soak it all in. He just learned and learned and learned. So he's like 3 years old and he has half the periodic table memorized. He'd just you don't know how many periodic tables this kid has designed and drawn and whatever in different ways. We had these little square things, like half sheet kind of papers that were different colors. And on his own, he's just, Mom, look what I did. And he lays this out. It fills our whole living room. And he's written the names of the periodic table, their numbers, their like a little picture for him. And he knows where they all go and outline like this puzzle he's put together. And I'm like, and he just did it because it was fun to him. He liked it. It was exciting. And he kind of caught that love of learning that we were trying to foster as we homeschooled. And we had some really incredible mentors, and we figured out ways kind of through My Tech High and the state funding we got to pay for them, because that's sometimes a challenge. Like we want some really unique, cool things for our kids. And then where do you get the money to do it? Right. And so we figured out some ways, and we paid this teacher, and he's an author and like this jack of all trades. And we brought in this other kid who was a homeschooled kid that just nerdy loved history. And he'd come dressed up every day, every week. He came for 2.5 hours. And he held these like 10-year-olds' attention because he told the stories of history, and he started in chronological order. And then he played a game with them, and they got these, it was like mixed between Risk and D&D and whatever. And they got to create their own countries. And they had these like little sticks and gems and money, and they'd roll the dice, and then they'd have these scenarios like, okay, well, I could join with, what do you call it? Make an alliance with this country, or I could attack them, or what do I want to do? And one of the kids, I remember, was saying, I'm going to send someone to go make an alliance, some of my people to go make an alliance with them, but I'm going to send troops around back to attack them, and he's like all excited. And the teacher's like, well, let me tell you about a time in history that this happened. Do you want to know how it turned out? And they're like, yeah, we want to know how it turned out. And then halfway through, they'd take 30 minutes and they'd do sword fighting, and he was teaching them stage fighting. And I mean, it was just incredible. That was just the one. And then this other guy that he did the chemistry, and he did their math and geometry. And they did this man skills class, which was like everything from memorizing poetry and performing and singing a song in front of people to killing and cleaning an animal to blacksmith. Like they did everything in that class. And he would do in math, they'd make parabolic hot dog cookers, and they got their own plot of land to plant a garden. And my son comes home and with his first radish that he grew, and he's going to live off the land. And he's like 9, 10, and just like how empowering that was. And he'd have these reward nights where they'd called The Life, Universe, and Everything. And they got to ask him any questions they wanted to ask him, and they'd bring treats. And it was like, they were learning, but that was like their party, and they were learning about anything, black holes. What do we want to ask him about? But, then we moved and didn't have access to this teacher. We did do some online things with him for a little while, but, it was really hard. We went and did some homeschooling groups where the moms were teaching, and they're like, the moms are really nice and they're trying, but they're just they don't have a passion about it. Like these mentors we found, they would get them digging in and just like, I didn't think I liked biology, but after our lesson today, I'm super excited. And I never had to tell them to do their homework. I never had to remind them that you have a report due, whatever. They just were so excited to learn. And then they came, and then they went to public school for a little bit. And my husband's like, you ruined them for public school. And I'm like, I know. But they're like, the teachers just have to control the class. There's 30 kids, and you take the first 3 weeks doing housekeeping and safety and all of this stuff. And we haven't even started learning yet, and then when you do, you have to wait in line for 20 other kids and can't ask a question. And they just kind of saw some of the challenges with the system that we have now. So I did kind of ruin them, but, that's my dream, to be able to create some. That's why I went off for a little while, is because I'm so passionate about protecting that passion within kids and not letting that die, letting their uniqueness come and letting them do things. It's just a much more effective way of having a society if people do things they're good at, instead of like, let's swap and have everybody do what they're crappy at and they hate. That's just miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that rant because it's so powerful. And I love that you ruin kids for public school, because like public school is horrible. It's like one of the worst, ways of teaching kids, in my opinion. But that passion and really understanding that, oh, I do like biology. Oh, I do like math. I had no idea, and it's just fascinating to me that we can absolutely instill that passion in kids and see a different perspective from, someone who's just up there to teach and get paid and is totally not passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah. And there's some great teachers, incredible teachers. John Taylor Gatto was one of the first books I read on that. Have you read anything? He has just I'll have to write it down, 7 lesson school something. And he won teacher of the year. And he gave this speech, and it basically was like, this is what we're teaching our kids in our schools, just so you know. And he was like the rule breaker. He'd like sneak kids out of school so they could go and, watch something that they were passionate about and learn about it and write a report on it. And, but we're teaching them, it doesn't matter what you're in the middle of, what the man says, when the bell rings, you have to stop and do something else. The bells are very industrial, here's punch your clock. You got to do what I say. You were teaching them that they don't have any time to be creative and to think their own thoughts. No time is their own. They get 2 minutes in the bathroom and that's it. We're controlling everything else. We're teaching them all these inadvertent lessons, and it's just like a couple pages, but it is powerful, very powerful. So yeah, well, one day I have a friend that started a nature school, and funding is kind of an issue, right? Always for that, but love all those alternative Waldorf schools and the Montessori's and different things like that. And I think they got to be outside and planting things and climbing trees. And have you guys climbed a tree lately? I did. I climbed some trees this last year. And I brought these bow and arrows for my kids to this retreat I was at, this women's retreat. And we were outside above Zion, and I brought some friends out, and it was like lightly snowing, and we were just shooting these arrows, and I got one stuck at the top of this pine tree. And so I was like, well, I got to go get it. I got to take that home to my kids. And I got to the top of the tree and I was like, this is incredible. Why don't I climb trees every day? Look at what I can see. And that was exhilarating. And this is so great. And so whenever I get a chance, I climb trees. And now with plant medicine, I can take half of a microdose, and then the trees talk to me, and I hear all about their personalities and, these, especially the old trees that have been there for a long time, and just connect with them. But that playfulness, when I get up into a tree and I feel like a little kid again, and we don't do enough of that, connecting with our little child that might have gotten stuffed down really quickly at school. Do you do any playful things or things to laugh or to just tap into that?
No, absolutely. So travel is one of my favorite things. And ever since I was a kid, just seeing new places, having new experiences. And I love that you tied plant medicine into that, because I do feel like plant medicine shows us some of this childlike passion that we used to have, that we just kind of, shoved down from school, from work, from, getting bogged down with different anxieties and all that kind of stuff.
That's probably my favorite part of plant medicine is the childlike wonder. And you just feel like a little kid again with all of that joy and playfulness and awe.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it makes me want to dance. Like, I just love dancing and moving and just, helping calm my nervous system that way. And something that I even forgot for a while that I enjoyed doing. Mm-hmm. But I love that you talk about climbing trees, because last year, me and my family went to the Redwood Forest up in Northern California from where I used to live. And there is just something so magical about the redwoods, about how huge everything is. And we're climbing on these 15-foot tall stumps, and all the growth that's coming out of them, and just being in nature and really just being surrounded by all this diversity and all these just different things. And it felt like we were a little kid in this huge magical fairy tale forest with these giant banana slugs, going around, and these ferns that are bigger than I am. And it's just such an amazing experience. And that's why I'm so passionate about traveling, is because it just puts me in this childlike state of oh, I got to stop here. I'm so excited to see this, and you run and you go and check things out and see things from a different perspective. And it just puts you in this really playful state for a while. And it's one of my passions as a result. There's some other things that I do to play, disc golf, finding a hobby that you just get out, get in nature and just go and have fun. Golf is one of those things as well. As I alluded to earlier, I absolutely love golf now. It's one of my passions. just different things like that. Since I actually moved up here and it's been too cold to really go golf, I actually play golf now on the video game, which is actually pretty realistic for what it is. And I just love it. It just puts my brain in this different brain state and makes me figure things out. And it's just super fun.
That's cool. Yeah, that's why we moved to Southern Utah, so we could be in real nature while we did those things. And I think that's why I like mountain biking. It's just that feeling of freedom and joy, being a little kid on a bike kind of thing. Being in nature is so huge. And oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much we had in common. Like, I feel like Nacho Libre. Everything you just said is exactly what I like to do. But the whole interview, but traveling and retreats and getting out there and being just this newness and playfulness. And I know I've said this before, but it's so true. Those women's retreats really tapping me into my own authentic self and my little girl and what I love, and being more free and open. So important. And I'll probably just go back and record a little bit about the trees, and when you're talking about the redwoods reminded me at the retreat center, the retreat place home, I'm going to be doing a little women's retreat at. But when we go on vacation and we don't have the stresses and the worries of daily life, and we can let ourselves go a little bit, and we don't have to get up and go to work in the next morning. And when I go with just my husband, and we get to be more playful, and we don't have the kids, and it's just like this whole we're meeting different people, this other light-hearted side, not the like stressed out, exhausted, overwhelmed side. We get to just go and have fun. We never did the first 20 years of our marriage, and now we do it a couple times a year at least, because it's so important. And it's like, oh, I'm meeting this whole different guy that is just playful and fun. And I mean, he always had that in him, but we just get into this doldrum and the ruts, and we were totally midlife crisis before our whole journey on this. So yes to all of that.
As you were saying, finding things that you enjoy and mountain biking. And for me, like, I grew up with dirt bikes and four-wheelers and that kind of stuff. And so I actually had an adventure bike when I was down in St. George. I don't have one now in the city because I don't want to drive a motorcycle in the city, honestly. But it instantly puts you in this different state, like instantly. And every time I'd get on my bike and I'd just go for, even if it was like a 20-minute ride, I mean, I usually would go for a few hours, but just like getting in that different brain state and being forced to be present is just so powerful. And it's just so addictive. Like, it's addictive being in that brain space. And I just absolutely love it. So just to anybody, I would say, find something that's fun that you're passionate about, and find ways to do that every week. Yeah.
And push yourself, be open. That's really, I had to open up. I had a very limited and just a limited view on a lot of things. So I wouldn't have gone to a drum ceremony or a goddess yoga or, a pole dancing class that, I did do that 10 years ago, but just be open to some of these things that might sound really weird and try it once. You might like it. You might love it. And you hate to get to the end of your life and try it. And then you're like, oh, I wish I would have been doing that way sooner, because I love this. It's so fun. And even some of those things like trying wakeboarding or wake surfing or mountain biking, that was all really scary for me. Like, it was totally pushing my limits, and I didn't want to. I wanted to just like sit in the boat or let my husband go do that with his friends and be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And not that you have to do something risky, but so when I started mountain biking, and even when I jump in the water to learn to wakeboard or whatever, I wasn't being too crazy and risky, but I was like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. That was exhilarating. That was fun. And then you can choose if you want to keep doing it more. But as I started mountain biking, I was terrified the first 3 years. Literally, I was so scared, and I was terrible at it. And I was so like, I was in good shape. So I'd like fly up the hill and beat all the guys up the hill. And then I'd be like, down the hill, and everybody would pass me. But then I got to a point where I was proficient at it, right? And like golf, you get better at something, and then you're like, oh, now this is starting to become fun because I'm not like worried about the technical part of this the entire time. I'm just enjoying the nature and the wind on my face and the jump and the feeling that I have. And I made a conscious decision to try those things though, because my brain really didn't want to. And I was like, what am I living for? Let's live and let's try some new things. And then now I'm so grateful I did that, because that's what my husband and I do. Like anytime we get a chance to, we get out on a bike ride. We're going on 3 to 5 bike rides a week. And it's like our time connecting together, our time in nature. We get that time in the car talking or listening to a podcast, like our date time. And we have a friend who, he's like, all of your hobbies, you guys just do like these healthy hobbies, that's why you guys stay so thin. Cause we don't go to I used to be personal trainer, but I don't go to the gym anymore. I hike, I'm a hiking guide, and I mountain bike, and I go do what sounds fun. This dancing class sounds fun. I'm going to go. And it's just, I feel like if you're able to put yourself out there, open up a little bit, you're going to find some things you love. And then it makes it 10 times easier to lose the weight if you actually like it and you're not gritting through the workout. But there's another rant.
It's true. It's important to mention, in my opinion, like do stuff that makes you feel happy and passionate. Sometimes it's going to the gym for people. A lot of times, it's hiking or riding a bike, or, even just going for a walk. Just get out there and move. The more you move, the more your body's going to work for you. And, it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, sitting's the new smoking for a reason. Just get out there and figure out ways to move. Like for me, I actually make balance boards, and I think it's just so much fun. It's something I loved as a kid. So as I got older, I'm like, oh, I can make these. And so I actually do the majority of my workouts while I'm balance boarding. So like I'll do squats while I'm balance boarding. I'll like even do these little challenges. I'm like, I wonder if I could get dressed while I'm balance boarding. I wonder if I could like tie my shoes while I'm balance boarding. And like the muscles you use and how much fun it is to be like just trying this thing and failing. And then finally, like I tied a shoe while I was on the balance board, just a silly little thing, but it's just so much fun to just challenge yourself and try these different things and just look at things differently and just move your body. So I love that you went there. It's such a great thing to do. Is just get out there, move, and figure out some fun, playful ways to get active.
Mm-hmm. I'm totally going to try balance boarding now. You got me inspired. I I can see my kids doing that too and getting into it instead of, with your kids, we have to be an example for them and get out. And I learned, I could get into this slump. I mean, I've been parenting 22 years and I still have a 6-year-old right now. So I could get into slumps. You do. And when I was homeschooling, I was just all in, and every second I was just going to be this fun mom and we're going to do all the things. And then sometimes you're like, I'm just overwhelmed and tired. But I realized that if I did things with my kids that we both loved. So what I found, because I do some things, I'm just like, I'm just doing this for them. I don't want to play this board game, or I don't want to go sit at the whatever, this place that they're wanting to go to. And I found that we all loved getting out in nature. And whether it was hiking or going to a stream and going, playing in the water or whatever that was, getting out in nature, I just loved watching, like something about watching little boys run through water and get sticks and, look for crabs and jump from rock to rock. And it just like that, just watching them filled my heart. And then just me sitting there next to the stream and being in nature and the workout I got up there, like all of that filled my heart up so much. And I didn't feel like it was draining anymore to be with the kids. Instead, it was filling me to be with the kids. And we could bring friends, and I'd have a friend to talk to and they'd have friends. And that was like, just find something that works for you. And sometimes you're going to have to try a lot of things. But I really should probably wrap it up here. I've had so much fun. Like, let's totally do this again. I can't wait to do it again. And we have a million other places we could go to, I'm sure. But if you want to just leave us with something that if you had, and you can think for a second, but if you had one message that you could tell people in a couple minutes and the whole world would hear this, what message would you want to leave with them?
I absolutely love that. That's an amazing question. You know, one thing that I talk about a lot, and I think it's one of the most challenging and important mindsets that we can get into. And it goes along with every single thing that we discussed today. And that's just having a curiosity mindset. The more we can develop a curiosity mindset, the more we can change how we show up on everything. The more we can become curious about like, oh, would I like that? Could that be fun? As soon as we start doing that, as soon as we start becoming curious, we change how our future self shows up. And it's one powerful shift that I had for me. Like I couldn't become a massage therapist without first having the curious thought of, could I be a massage therapist? What would that look like? And you go and start doing the steps and you act as if you are that you're taking the steps as if you are that massage therapist. What I say is do things that your future self will be proud of. And so developing that curiosity mindset around everything, around, trying new activities, trying new challenges, maybe taking that coaching lesson and really having a system around you that's going to support you in that is going to get you so much further in life.
Yeah, I got to throw in there too, because I'm like, we don't have to go there this episode, but try new sex positions, open up your mind. Don't just do the same old stuff, or even just new ways to open up that connection or that emotional, all the stuff we're talking about. We'll do it. I'll have to do a whole sex episode, and bring on some gurus there. But, that just popped into my mind when you said try new things.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's important too. Like try new things, go to a retreat, go to, take a tantra class, whatever it is, do something that makes it exciting and new and challenging and fun. And even if you don't really connect with it, you're going to find little tidbits that are actually fun. And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. And that's what's so cool about it. Like find new sex positions, find new ways to connect, maybe get a kinky book and read it and be like, oh, you want to try this, and being able to just become curious about life, become curious. And it makes it so much more fun and really helps with just everything we're doing.
So perfect to wrap it all up. Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for taking a little extra today. That was such a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me on it.
Thanks so much for subscribing and leaving a review. Come join our amazing free community, Life Changing Trips. There's a link in the description.